Hello and welcome to the review of Champions. I am your host, Grandmaster. In 2012, Marvel did what no one had done before, and what they did changed the industry to this date. It was deemed impossible at the time, building up a universe and then bringing it all together in one movie. People would not be able to follow what was going on because they didn't see all movies or other excuses. It's hard to imagine now, but in 2012, bringing out the Avenger in the theaters was considered a little bit of a risk. It turns out it wasn't. The movie made $1.5 billion, dollars, and at the time it was the first biggest, highest grossing film of all time, only topped by Avatar and Titanic. It really kicked off the cultural phenomenon that is the MCU. We can say that for a period of a decade or so, Marvel Studios became the biggest studio in Hollywood. The Avengers created a financial and critically acclaimed powerhouse like we have never seen before, and maybe we never will again. Well, of course, I'm not going to talk about this film alone. With me is that powerful panel made up of the finest champions Sakar has to offer. Let me introduce them to you. First up, we have voice only Loki's mom. How are you?
I am doing really well and I'm out for vengeance.
It's good to hear. We have on camera the original, Mr. Taylor first. How are you?
I'm great.
And also with us today is Merv. How are you, man?
I'm fantastic.
Yeah, that's another movie. But anyway,
I'm fully assembled.
That's good. All screws are in place. Well, we'll see. Well, I have told this story on the very first podcast of Champions we ever recorded. That was Arch and me back in the day. I think it was late 2020 or something. Yeah. But the Avengers is actually the first MCU film I ever saw. I was aware of some of the characters and movies. I saw commercials or trailers or something, but I never saw those films before I saw the Avengers, actually. It was also the very first movie I ever saw together with my now wife, then girlfriend. And it was so awesome. Lightning in a bottle. Uh, so you can imagine the MCU became very special to us, and certainly to me, and it still is to this date. We have seen all MCU movies in theaters since then. So it's special to me. So, but you're not here to hear me talk. You're here to hear the champions talk. So I'm gonna start with you, Taylor, and I want you to focus on three things that I. And of course, you can talk about everything else. But how did you look at the Avengers before it came out? Did you see it as a risk, or did you know it was going to be a huge success? And how was your experience during this first watch? And did it change the way you looked at the MCU, your excitement, and everything else?
Leading up to it, I was very hopeful because I had loved all of the previous MCU movies. I felt they had done a good job of building up towards this. So I was hopeful that it would be good. I wasn't 100% sure. There was always, the thought in the back of the mind that it might might not all come together
Mhm.
as well as I would have hoped, but it did. I walked out of that movie knowing that I had just watched the greatest superhero movie ever made. To this day, it is still the greatest superhero movie ever made, and I know that it will always be the greatest superhero movie ever made. No matter how much is produced in the future, it all owes whatever they do to this movie and its incredible success. And we'll get into the details of. And so, what was the third?
Well, you were hopeful, and it was it struck you by the same lightning I was talking about earlier, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and um, you had a certain feel for the MCU before, and how did that change after you saw the Avengers and your excitement for the future?
Oh,
which is now the
excitement.
past. Yeah.
Well, yes, my excitement for the future, of course, went off the charts because this movie just thrilled me. It was better than I ever hoped it could have been. I didn't think it was even possible to be that good, and I knew the world. They gave us those end credit scenes we saw at the end of this movie, of course. Thanos,
Hmm.
and of course that opens an entire new galactic chapter, cosmic
Hmm.
chapter of the universe. I knew there were tons more characters out there that they could bring in, and now that they had proven successfully that they could have a universe that did not revolve around just one character, but could have multiple characters doing different things in different places at different times, and it could all come together. So I was my hope for the future was unlimited after seeing
Hmm.
this movie.
Okay, I will come back to you, and then you can talk about your likes, dislikes, whatever. If you have any critique of this movie, which I cannot imagine, because I totally agree with you. This is the greatest superhero movie ever made. Um, Maybe not the best, but it's the greatest. There's a difference. But we will get back to that. But Loki's mom, for you, the same questions. How did you look at the project, the Avengers, before it came out? Um, and yeah, how was your? Where did you see it? How did you experience your first viewing? And yeah, what did it do for your excitement and your feel for the MCU?
Well, I think I've sort of. And first off, let me say on you and your your future wife's meet cute or whatever you want to call it. Oh, that was such a sweet story.
Well,
I would give you a big hearts, but I don't have the ability to do that for my.
well, I can elaborate on that a little bit more. My wife is from Malaysia, Singapore, and I'm from Europe. And I flew to that area of the world to meet her face to
Uh-huh.
face for the first time. Uh, and we spent 2 wonderful weeks together in that area. And one of the things we did was going to the movies because we had no appointment at that moment with her friends or family, and we had some time to kill. So we went to the movies, and then I say, well, that looks interesting. And because the movie theater was full with pictures of the Avengers, and well, we went there. Yeah. Little did I know that it started to dominate my life for the next 15 years or so. But that yeah, that kind of happened. But yeah,
Oh wow,
but
that's just that's an adorable story. I just
yeah.
thank
And
you for
actually,
telling that.
I a few months later, when we were in the process of her moving to the Netherlands, I went out at a Saturday afternoon and thought, well, maybe the Avengers movie is out on DVD, and I want to watch it again. And I went out, and then I saw a box with all 6 movies. So from Iron Man to the Avengers. So I bought that DVD box, and then I watched the Avengers first, and then I watched all the movies, not in order. I did the 2 Iron Man movies first, and then I did Captain America, and then I did Thor and last the Incredible Hulk, something like that. And I didn't understand it all. That why is this movie in there? Because this guy is different. But of course, later I read up on it. But it was a weird experience for me, the Phase One. But it all kicked off for me with the Avengers. But enough about me and my personal history. I want to hear from you.
Okay, well you know what? It's we're almost twins because I too saw this movie. I actually saw it at this point. I think it was on one of the cable channels, HBO or something, and uh, had seen the Iron Man movies, both of the Iron Man movies, because as I've said many times, I'm just huge Robert Downey Jr. fan. Then saw this movie on television. Kind of okay. I didn't know. I knew who Thor and Loki were. I didn't, their backstory. I didn't know. Um, Early on, I thought, if Jeremy Renner dies in this movie, I'm going to stop watching it. So, right at that point, I said, I need to stop watching this movie because I don't know what's going on and I want to appreciate it better because I really like what I was seeing, but I just wasn't understanding it. So, like you, I went back, but I went back in order and managed to either through. I think at that point you could still get Netflix through the mail, and I think I probably did it that way and caught myself up to it, and then I rented, either saw it on cable or rented the DVD of the Avengers, and just really and loved it. Yeah, I think the greatest superhero movie, particularly teen movie. I think, yeah, I would say that that's accurate. Um, Kind of some little quibbles I have with it, which I'll get into the deep dive. But otherwise, I can't praise the movie enough.
Okay. And did you after you saw you fell in love with the MCU as I did, or
Absolutely,
and started
absolutely.
to follow it, or yeah.
Yeah, I really did. I mean, like I said, I found just so many new. In addition to RDJ, whom I admired and loved for a long time. Then I caught Tom Hiddleston. I had never seen him before. Just fell flat in love with him. Of course, the Captain America was brought back in. Thor was there. Oh, golly, what else can we get? I mean, who else? Who's missing? Maybe some people we could think of, but and of course Jeremy Renner, another actor I just think is just a wonderful actor, and I've admired him. And he went through some tough few years here recently, and he seems like he's back on his feet and doing better. So that's just wonderful for him, and
Yeah.
hope we get to see more of him in the MCU in the future, but maybe not. But we'll see.
Well, there are rumors that he is doing Hawkeye season 2, so let's
Good.
hope it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Murph, for you, the same questions actually. You've heard them by now. You want me to repeat them, or
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I mean, I grew up reading comics, watching cartoons and television shows and movies, all dealing with superheroes. So I was into this from the beginning. I was actually one of the few people in my circle of friends at the time who understood how connected this was to other movies like Thor and Captain America and stuff like that. Like a lot of people, a lot of general audience went into this movie not really understanding like, oh, this movie's tied into it. Oh, it's actually going to bring all these characters together. So I was very excited. And optimistic and hopeful. And I mean, it all paid off in the end. But there was a bit of worry. I mean, just in general, but like even with me, who again was very optimistic, just how they were going to balance what felt like wildly different uh, connective tissue, or not connective tissue, wildly different like themes. Essentially,
Mhm.
you've got like a Norse god over here, and like a World War II veteran over here, and then like a super advanced guy in a tech suit over here. It's just those don't jump out as easily meshable, in terms of like themes and in just everything. So there was definitely some concern, at least on my end, of like how this was all going to come together. Is something going to feel out of place? The elephant in the room was Thor. Being a Norse god and that whole thing. Even after you saw his movie, just like how he's going to mesh with everything else, just really felt like the biggest hurdle. And this movie, having so much to do with Thor and Thor building into the Avengers so much, I think just really it all worked. Like the main antagonist being related to Thor, and Thor's movie essentially being like one of the bigger precursors. Obviously, all of Phase One does, but like I think Thor is probably the biggest one that has like the direct impact on this movie as far as the plot goes. So yeah, I mean, I came into it optimistic and hopeful, and I left even more so. I have to agree, and I think you mentioned something earlier, Grandmaster, like in your opening, where like this did like this was groundbreaking. This was truly groundbreaking as a film. Uh, Not that nothing has ever crossed over before. I mean, we've all seen Abbott and Costello versus Frankenstein or whatever those movies are. But
Star Trek?
I think this is easily like one of the most widely well received and like critically acclaimed successes in that regard. And it's all still, now we look at it as under the same umbrella, but at the time it was a risky move, and I think it all paid off. Obviously, with where the MCU goes.
Yeah, the biggest movie franchise in history. Still, I mean, it made like $30 billion. Nothing comes even close. So
Right.
uh, there's no question, and it changed cinema because after the Avengers, everybody wanted to make their own unit shared universe, and well, except for Star Trek, everything failed so far. Star Trek was already, of course, before them too, but I will always say that. But anyway, yeah. Um, this was a lightning in a bottle, as I said. It was electric. I know that when I saw it, I knew I'd seen something special, and I think that's true for everybody. But now let's talk about the movie itself. And I start with you, Loki's mom. Tell me, do you dare critique Marvel's The Avengers?
Well, this is not a critique per se on the movie. I think this is something that has happened as it progressed up to the other stories. Now, here we have Loki, who's going to have to come through um, some dimensional vehicle. I'm not sure exactly how it's done, but via the Tesseract. And this elaborate thing they have to then he has to then take the Tesseract and then fix it to where it can be an opening, a portal, a larger portal can be opened so the Chitauri and the others army can come in and help him subdue the earth. Okay, why didn't they use the same technology that Captain Marvel did, where they just kind of like chapoom chapoom and they open up and boom, here they're at Earth, from wherever they come from. So that to me, I think, just looking at it in retrospect, and this wasn't has been the first time I've noticed it, but that just seems so odd. Without it being explained that perhaps Loki's the nine realms and where we find out finally at the very end of the movie the Mad Titan himself live is that a realm that is inaccessible through normal space channels that Captain Marvel uses, or the Kree people had been using for generations. So I'll put that question out there for you, for the experts, particularly Taylor. I think Taylor may be able to explain it to me. I'm hoping he will. But
Uh,
otherwise, no. I mean, I don't have any huge complaints against the movie. I mean, the cast was fantastic. Everybody worked well together. They fit in well. Each segment, um, each character had enough in depth time for character development in the film. Um, yeah, there were some really good scenes, particularly the I thought the Red Ledger scene between Loki and the Black Widow was excellent, well done. And of course, Josh Wheaton directed this movie, and he is just, I think he's the top director of the genre. I don't see anybody else matching him at this point. But no, there were no real complaints as far as the movie itself. I don't give a lot of perfect scores, but I might be given one. Who knows?
Hmm. Okay. Any particular highlights for you during this film?
Well, yeah, the one I mentioned, that I think because of this whole idea that um, it's a redemption story for all the characters. I mean, even the villains, they go through some sort of empathetic review, so that we can see their POV, why they're being driven to do what they are. They're just not cardboard villains. The same with the heroes. They have flaws. They have issues they have to deal with. They have personalities. Tony Stark is so arrogant, and of course, I love that scene where he finally realizes he thinks like Loki. He's sort of a Loki himself. He's a bad boy. He gets mischief. He gets into trouble. He's a prima donna. Well, let's see. Oh yeah, by darn, that's where he's going to do it. He's going to do it on that ugly building that's supposed to. I think it's where the MetLife building is supposed to be, but the old Pan Am building, but now it's Stark Tower. But that's where he's going to, perform his bring the army out. So yeah, and then of course the closing scene where Tony diverts the nuclear warhead up into the uh, opening, and then he falls back, and then it's very I thought very beautiful. Of course, we know he's going to survive. We know nothing's going to happen to him. Even so, it was just well done, and
Yeah,
I don't really know what else to say.
yeah. Well, yeah. I think we still feel the ramifications of this movie inside the MCU till this day. Murph, yeah. Let's hear it. Critique, highlights. If you just want to praise this movie for a minute or five, go ahead.
Well, I'll bring up one. It's not even a critique, really. It's a minor blip on the radar of the ocean that is the greatness of this film. Um, but all the main characters, I feel like in this movie have a pretty good character progression within this movie. They go from A to B by the end of this movie, and it's a better position than they were in the beginning. Even Hawkeye does this from an outside source because he's obviously corrupted for like the majority of the film. But we don't get much for Hawkeye as far as like personal growth or even like hinting at like who he is as a character outside of he can shoot a bow and arrow. You know what I mean? That's like the only thing that upon a rewatch is like, where's this? Obviously, well, I guess maybe that's I probably talked myself out of it. We clearly know that there's a history with Black Widow there, so that's a little bit as far as like the personal spectrum of character development. But all the other ones I feel like are leaps and bounds. Like we see so much of them from start to end, and obviously part of that is because he's corrupted. But like it felt highlighted a little bit on the latest rewatch. Again, not even close to becoming like a problem with the film or anything like that. I wouldn't even really call it a flaw, but it's just something I noticed on this last rewatch. As far as good moments, I mean, I don't even know where to start. Everything about this movie is fantastic. The pacing is phenomenal. Just to highlight a few like things, I can kind of remember like walking out of the theater and these things really standing out to me. The fact that every character has a moment meant a lot. Like as a especially on a first time view, but even now, like when you watch it, every character has a moment. Even Nick Fury has a couple of moments. Like obviously Tony Stark or like Thor have multiple moments across the entirety of this film. But like even Coulson has a moment. Characters like Maria Hill have a moment that where they stand out as like this is what they do. They're good at what they do, or like this is the moment for them. I'm thinking Nick Fury with like the rocket launcher taking down the jet. Obviously, there's another jet that takes off right after it, making it null and void. But like that's an awesome moment for Nick Fury as a character. Maria Hill, whenever they're escaping in the introductory or the opening like chase sequence before the title credits, like when she hears in her earpiece that like so and so don't let Barton escape, she immediately ducks for cover, dodges bullets, gets into a shootout. I thought that was awesome for that character. You know what I mean? And there's so many moments like that littered around this entire film where like even these fringe characters like Coulson and Maria Hill like stand out in these brief moments, and then like there's so many moments for a character like Hulk or Thor or Iron Man, but that's the natural progression of the main characters, so that's fine. But like I really appreciated the throwing the sidebar, dog a bone every once in a while in this movie, especially. Um, uh, Still one of my favorite sequences in anything is what the action sequence after they rally and Hulk shows up at the end. Whenever they're kind of panning through the battlefield, and first you see like Hawkeye's bow go and shoot a guy, and that guy crashes into a thing, and then you see like Black Widow shooting at people, and you see Thor and Hulk working together to beat people up, and Tony and Captain America working together, like Tony using his beams on the shield where it reflects. All that stuff is just like peak. nerd cinema to me. You know, like I still love it. I was watching it earlier today, and I just couldn't get enough of it. That sequence alone makes this movie worth making. And then one thing that also just really stands out is the humor. The humor is timeless. I watched it today, and I still laugh out loud 13 years later. I don't know, over a dozen times seeing it with the puny god scene. You know, it's just slapstick comedy at its greatest. But whenever Loki starts monologuing and Hulk just grabs him by the leg and just starts smashing him into the ground, it's just perfect. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
no flaw there, and it gets me every time. Every
I
single time I watch it,
now
I
you
just can't
mention it.
get out enough.
Now you mention it. You have that great callback to that puny god scene in Thor Ragnarok,
Hmm.
when it happens to Thor.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Whenever, like, even whenever Loki first sees that Hulk's on the planet, he's like, "We got to get out of here," and he starts
yeah,
trying to run away.
and then
You
when
know,
and then
yeah,
when Thor gets smashed, he says, "That's how." Now you know how it feels. It's yeah. That is, and that's what's so great about the MCU, right?
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. I could literally talk about every scene in this movie for how good it was or how relevant it is to everything that comes after it. But I mean, this movie is just again top notch superhero movie, pretty much untouchable to me.
Mm. Yeah, Loki's mom. You had a follow up.
Yes, one scene in particular, I'll go ahead and bring it up, is where Loki is there in Stuttgart and in Germany, and he tells the people, he's back in his horns and he's got his projections surrounding them. Um, Kneel before me, you know. Um, you don't want your freedom. Freedom is slavery speech. And then finally one man does stand up and he says, well, the world knows about tyrants like you, and I will not kneel down. And I just thought that probably was one of the bravest things they ever did. We're going to talk about what makes this movie great. I think or makes a lot of the MCU movies great is they're willing to go there and speak truth to power. So I'll
Yeah.
just leave it at that. And the actor, by the way, I think his name is Kenneth Tiger, wonderful character actor.
Mm. Yeah. We'll talk about wonderful actors making a small cameo. Harvey Dean Stanton, excellent, and still one of the most funniest jokes in this movie. Then, son, you got a condition. Yeah, like we don't know. Taylor, of course, this review wouldn't be complete without you stepping onto the floor.
Yes. Well, to answer Loki's mom's question, a wizard did it.
Okay, worked
One
for
of the
me.
big three.
No, but to get to some like what Merv referenced, this movie proved it could be done. It can be done. Um, no superhero franchise had made it past three movies without imploding or becoming a total S show. Okay, they tried. It had been tried multiple times, and they just could not get past that third movie. It was like a curse or something. And even previous franchises, like Merv mentioned, the Universal monsters. Yeah, they came together in House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula and Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, but they were kind of just thrown together. They were kind of lower budget than the previous stuff. They just kind of money grabs. Not bad. I still watch them all the time. And Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein is one of the greatest movies, but it's a comedy. It's a horror comedy, not really part of the original Universal Monsters universe that started in the 30s. Nothing was able to do it the way this franchise did it. That it could be serious. It could get better. You could actually increase the budgets as you went along and make it bigger and make it on a grander scale and do more as opposed to just playing it safe or grabbing the money while you can situation. So I really appreciate that in this movie. And then, as the others alluded to, the writing in this movie is great. The storytelling in this movie is fantastic. From the moment they capture Loki to Thor coming down to take Loki back, and the meetup between Captain America and Thor and Iron Man is a great scene. And then how we see Nick Fury's master plan coming together to bring this team together. They have differences. They work through their differences. There's that one scene where they're all arguing and it's getting really heated, and you see that, yes, they have differences, but it's partly because the staff is in the room with them and the Mind Stone is there, and it's kind of affecting them to the point where Hulk almost hulks out right there. But again, they work through it. Again, there's character interaction, how the team, everyone has their own opinions, their own styles, their own thoughts about what to do and how to do it. And it all comes together. And then, of course, Loki's plan, again, brilliantly written. Um, and then the other great moment, Coulson's death, of course, is the final nail in the coffin. But then the whole subplot with Hawkeye being mind controlled and the other uh, agents being mind controlled and attacking the carrier and causing the confusion, which of course leads to Loki's escape. All just brilliantly executed, just wildly entertaining. The final battle scene is, to this day, that is the most Avengers comic scene ever put into live action on film. It is straight out of, Silver Age comics. It was almost, as Merv was talking about, how it would pan to one character and that would lead to another character who would throw something in this direction that would lead to another character doing something else. That's right off out of like comic book pages from the Silver Age. And then of course the giant hole in the sky with the Chitauri coming out of it, and the part where Captain America steps up, takes charge, assigns everyone their orders because he, of course, is uniquely qualified for that role, having led troops in battle in World War II. Everyone else has their strengths and their weaknesses. Natasha and Barton, they're spies and assassins. That's a different skill set than pitched battle, on a large scale like this. So he knows exactly what everybody can do and how they can best be utilized. He gives clear, concise orders, and everybody executes. It was just really well done. They never lose focus on protecting the civilians. Very superhero thing, all right? That in some other nameless superhero franchises kind of gets forgotten, all right? But these guys never lose focus that their primary focus is getting the civilians to safety and protecting them. They work with the police. They work when the military shows up later in the battle. They all work together. The police and the military aren't portrayed as the bad guys or losers or corrupt or in the way, like phases 4 and 5 they usually ended up looking a lot of. But no, they're doing their job. The Avengers are doing their job, and everyone is trying to do the right thing to the best of their abilities. Captain America throws Black Widow into the sky. She catches a flying Chitauri bike thing and does all her flips and spins and stuff. Again, this is Black Widow. She's a Marvel superhero. Captain America isn't worried about her breaking her neck or anything. He just knows she can do what she can do. So I'm just going to throw her at that thing and let her do her thing. Again, very, very comic booky, straight out of the, again, Silver Age Avengers, Bronze Age Avengers. The way they all work together, they all fight, they all contribute greatly to the overall battle. And then of course the scene where and I'm jumping around in time a little bit, but the scene where Tony Stark has this conversation with Loki, and how you see that Stark has come to appreciate his team a lot better. He's warning Loki, we've got a living legend, we've got master assassins, and we've got a Hulk, and they're all going to come together, and we are going to protect the Earth one way or another. And if we can't, then we'll avenge it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the final thing where Tony learns a big lesson, and it's not like he has to say it in words or anything, because he previously had the argument with Captain America about laying on the wire. He has that final moment where, no, sometimes you do just have to sacrifice yourself. You can't always think your way out of everything. Now he ends up surviving by sheer luck, of course, and we knew that was going to happen. But he was willing to sacrifice himself to save others and make the ultimate sacrifice. It's just all. What else can I'm not gonna say. I could go through every scene in the movie and talk about it was great. It was great. It was great. But again, the characters, of course, we'd already been introduced to them brilliantly, built up to this point. They all came together brilliantly. The storytelling to to face this ultimate overwhelming challenge that none of them could face alone, and then the coming together and how they are at the end of this movie. They are a team. They are the Avengers. There's no question about it that they're going to be back whenever it's needed. And a lot of other things are going on in the universe, which are all hinted at throughout. Like he talked about the Shield agents and Maria Hill and others, um, and then of course the stinger at the end with the Thanos. As soon as we saw that, it's like, oh my god, what's going to be next? And of course, and even that, then they of course drew that out over a long period of time. I was expecting Thanos to be the next Avengers movie. Nope, we got Ultron. So again, they just paced everything so well. Not just this movie, but the whole universe was paced so well.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing rushed. Everything given its due. Everything built up. Everything um, just got the right amount of focus. Good writing. The right. Nothing sounds forced. Nothing sounds like lecturing. Nothing sounds like something that was written and practiced the day before, like that kind of a speech. Even Tony Stark's speeches, he's very intelligent. He speaks very well, but it doesn't sound like he wrote it and rehearsed it before. It sounds like they're speaking from the heart and in the
Mm-hmm.
situation, and that goes for everybody.
Yeah.
And all the different personalities shine through. They're all,
Mm-hmm.
they're all very different. Natasha, of course, has baggage. Barton, of course, was very injured by the fact that he was mind controlled and he killed his fellow Shield agents and caused a whole lot of damage. So his guilt was racking him somewhat, but he fought through it and did what was right. So yeah, I just don't know what else great to say about this movie. It did what nothing had ever been able to do before. Not just successfully, but exceptionally well. You know, that's all you can say.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, I think I already said so when I was talking about how I became an MCU fan earlier in this review. There was a change. Edward Norton out, Mark Ruffalo in a great round, starting with you,
Hmm.
Taylor. Taylor, did you think that was an improvement?
Yes, I did, and I
Okay.
didn't. I didn't dislike Norton's performance in Hulk, but I remember having a conversation shortly after seeing that movie, and I'm like, first of all, I wasn't familiar with no, I can't even the new guys.
Ruffalo, Mark
Mark
Ruffalo.
Ruffalo. I wasn't familiar with Mark Ruffalo before this movie, and I was talking to people after that. I'm like, this is the third time they've tried casting Hulk, and I'm like, where has this guy been all along? He was fantastic. I thought he was just thought he did a great job. I think it's just because he's just a really great actor, and he really embodies the role. He was able to really personify that character with. And again, I had no problem with Norton. I didn't even have a problem with Bana. I had a problem with that movie, a couple of problems with that movie, but I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
a problem with Bana playing Banner. But this guy was just so naturalistic about it, and again, I think that's just his way of acting as opposed to him being, the perfect Hulk. I think he's just a great actor, and he can do pretty much any role you put in front of him and make it feel very human.
Yeah. Except when he doesn't need to be like this year Mickey's 17, but let's not open that can of worms.
Well, yeah. Well, I
But
think if I can just jump in, yeah, I think Mark Ruffalo has the everyman character, persona, ethos about him that Horton, Norton, I'm sorry, just doesn't have. I mean, he plays great for other character parts, but he doesn't have that relatability that I think Ruffalo has.
yeah,
Yeah,
Norton felt less like a gamma ray scientist than Ruffalo did. Murph, do you agree? Or
I do. I think Ruffalo was better than both Bana and Norton, and I didn't hate either of those actors in those roles. But I think what Ruffalo does that they don't really do as well is portray somebody who's uncomfortable in their own skin, the way that Bruce Banner is uncomfortable because he's walking on eggshells constantly, and
Right.
he hates who the guy is that comes out and that sort of thing. That really came through like fantastic. When he's in those uncomfortable scenes, especially early in the Avengers film, I really thought he nailed those parts about as good as you could.
yeah, I actually like that scene a lot in India. I think it is where Black Widow goes to recruit Banner, and then he actually tries to see what she is doing because he has control over the Hulk at that moment, but she doesn't know that. So that's was a nice little scene. Yeah, I think we have unpacked enough about this movie. I
Let me back up just a little.
oh
I'm gonna give you a little bit of Norse mythology lore. Since
okay.
this is my son I'm speaking of, and my nephew. Um, well, there's that one scene where I'm not sure where they're at, but they're Loki and they're putting the Tazarac machine together, and he's sitting there and suddenly goes into this flashback where he's with the other and the other is warning him what's going to happen to him if he is successful with this, and you see a snake crawling in the background, and then the other slides his hand up around Loki's face, and then this is somewhat based on the lore where Loki, his final punishment, he's bound in Asgard, and as his punishment for killing Baldar, a snake is placed over his head, and venom drips from the fangs into his eyes, and causing him great pain, and this causes earthquakes. But so his wife Sagine comes and she holds the bowl under the poison of the snake, and the venom drips into that, but it does fill up, so she has to dump it. And that's when Loki feels his pain again, and then that's when we feel earthquakes and all that, yada yada. But I just thought that was something I'd throw in.
No, nice. Thank you. Um, Now that we have unpacked enough about this movie, I think let's do a round of ratings. Ratings for Marvel's The Avengers, as the movie is officially called. And I'm gonna start with you, Merv. Can I have your number for Marvel's The Avengers? I'm very curious if I hear another number than the one I have in mind. But
I'd give it probably a 6 until the movie started, and then it jumped up to a 10.
Until
Uh,
it started.
yeah, 10 out of 10. It is. I mean, it's easily one of, if not still, the best MCU movie, superhero movie. One of the best movies I've ever seen. 10 out of 10.
Loki's mom.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give the Paramount logo a 10. No, for because this movie, and I mean, based on somewhat just us, the enthusiasm and the joy and the love we are having right now and the fun discussing this movie, I think that's indicative of the quality and the elevation, that thing that Martin Scorsese wants to sneer at, that he doesn't think these movies has. Well, then he needs to look at this movie, sir, Marty. I love you, but please look at this movie. And for all the other things, Josh Wheaton, I don't think he's even topped himself yet for this movie, so I'm going to give this movie a rare 10.
Mm. A 10 from Loki's mom. That's really rare. I don't think I've ever heard you give a 10 before.
No, I never have.
Um, um, Taylor, I'm curious. I'm actually not
Before,
curious because I know what you're going to do, but
before I give the rating, that I did want to mention one other shared universe that had previously happened before this. That is the Toho Kaiju universe, which started with Godzilla. Um, And much as I love all those movies, as time went on, they did become kidified and comical and hokey and wonderfully hilarious. But I don't put them in the same category as the MCU as far as greatness goes. Rating this movie. Wow. Well, this is Spinal Tap, and it goes to 11, so it is 11 out of 10.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, I can only join the rest of the panel and give this movie a 10 out of 10. I think it was perfection. And yeah, I told you enough why I think this. Well, after this awesome discussion about an awesome film, I have nothing left to do. And make sure you like and share this video. Subscribe to our channel, and if you want, you can join our conversation on Sacar.freeforms.net. Just click on the link in the description. Next time, in a bizarre twist of events, we will discuss the infamous Iron Man 3 movie. And in a few weeks, we will talk about Star Trek Nemesis. So be on the lookout for that. For now, I wish you all to be safe and be well. Grandmaster signing off. Bye.